Grace and Big Fish. Have a blessed Easter.
Remember the first time I got to preach on Easter Sunday, I was so excited. There were so many amazing scriptures to choose from, and I really wanted something that was going to just bring about all the excitement that there has to be with Easter, that Christ is risen, that it would go along with all the music and the flowers and the light and the sunshine of the spring. I didn't choose the Mark text, I can tell you that. Honestly, I don't know if I've ever preached this text, the one that Erica read for you, because, well, it's not a very good Easter story. You see, I just want to remind you, what happens is the ladies see that Jesus is gone, and the angels tell them that he is risen, to go back to Galilee, to wait, as Jesus had told them to do. And then they ran away, and they didn't say anything. Now, in my book, that is not a good ending. That's kind of a bad ending for a story. When I was young, maybe some of you old people like me might remember that they always showed The Wizard of Oz on Easter Sunday. Anybody remember that? Wizard of Oz, Easter Sunday? Okay. So we would always be at my grandparents' house, and my grandfather, he liked his TV on Sunday evening. You know, Bonanza or some other kind of thing that we didn't like that was on. And so while we had gotten into the beginning of The Wizard of Oz, he wanted to switch the channel. So he would tell us some crazy version of how the story ended. And you know, he wanted to tell us this story because he wanted it to be that he wanted to watch what he wanted to watch. And so he just fixed the ending to meet his needs. You know, I think we do that a lot too. We fix the endings of things to meet our needs. And that's, you know, understandable. Actually, it's even reasonable. But you know what? It's probably not our call. The endings are probably meant to be the way that they are. You know it's one of my very great faults is that I like to fix endings. I am definitely a person who likes the sunshine and the rainbow and the little bluebirds tweeting at the end. And I don't like they ran away because they were afraid. But more times in life than not, that's what the ending kind of looks like. You see, just like the wizard, I like to get things and make them right. And I even try to coax the gospel to look the way I want the gospel to look. You know, I want the Disney version of life. Is anybody with me there? But sometimes life is really messy. Sometimes we get the ending that we need rather than the one we want. Why? Well, because we worship God. God who meets us exactly where we are. God that meets us at the point when things are the worst that we can possibly imagine. And God doesn't come in and fix things like the wizard does. But instead, what God does is he redeems them. And there is a really big difference between being redeemed and being fixed. You see, what happens is when God redeems something, what he does is he takes what looks like the ending and he makes it a new beginning. He makes it that what might look like a failure actually becomes a new opportunity. You know, I know a lot of stuff in life is happening. You know, all of us have things that are going on in our lives, and probably there's something that's happening in our life that makes us feel exactly like those women. Maybe we are in awe of what's happening, but we probably still have something that we're afraid of. And more than likely, there is something in our life that we're running away from. Now, in your current situation, it might be absolutely reasonable to run. Any sane person would run. You might be struggling with illness, or problems with your children, or finances, or your job. You might be just struggling with, is there God? And how can I have faith when so many things are happening in life? You might be worried about your future. Where do I go from here? We might not always be able to see it, but we may not always be able to understand it. But God is present. God is there, just as God was present on that Easter morning. The Easter story is about how God keeps seeking us. That it isn't about the women going to the tomb and looking for Jesus, but instead, what it is that God is looking for us. That even death does not stop our God. And that is the story of Easter. That we killed the love of God in bodily form. That Jesus was tortured and mocked and hung on a cross. And the world said, we do not need you. And then God came in, as God always does if we allow God. And God came seeking. And God said, it is not finished. And you do need me. And that's the story of resurrection. God will meet us exactly at the point of our brokenness. So no matter where you are today, God will come in if you allow him. Not to just be there with us, but also to do something to amaze us, even in the midst of our fear. We may not always be able to see it just like the ladies were able to see the angel there. And we may not be able to understand it, but we need to trust. We need to have faith that God is present. The story of the resurrection reminds us that life is more than we can see, or we can taste, or smell, or hear, or feel. But life goes on beyond the present. God has the power beyond all of our human understanding. And as much as we love the fact that we have a God that journeys right alongside us as Jesus does in the toughest moments of our life, but we also have a mysterious God that is able to do things that we can never fully understand. And for that reason, we believe that our God is stronger than death. So what do you think? What do you think when you think you've used up your very last chance? When things seem to be their very worst, that you cannot imagine that your life could ever be in this situation. And then what happens? Just like that Easter morning, Jesus surprises us. Surprises us in ways that we would never expect and can't ever understand. And too often our response to that amazement is fear. Like, what do I do now? What do I do now that the God of creation and all of the universe has come to meet me here at this moment in which I am most afraid? Jesus leaves the grave and death is defeated. But what are we going to do with that? What do we do with that message? The thing is that Mark's gospel is amazing in the fact that it doesn't put the responsibility on the disciples. It doesn't put the responsibility on Mary or Mary Magdalene or Elizabeth. But instead, what it does is that it shares a message of hope. That when life looks amazingly bleak, no matter how afraid you are, that God will invite us into his presence. And then, this is where all of us come in. We pick up the story, and we continue to tell it. We continue to tell people that Jesus is risen. And the reason that we trust and believe that is because of the stories in our lives. The moments where we have felt God's healing presence. The moments in which we have felt peace that passes all understanding. The moments in which we are running as fast as we can. And we feel the breeze of the Holy Spirit running beside us. On that morning, we take up right where those women left off. For they were to go and tell the disciples that Jesus is risen. Jesus, the one that was crucified, has been raised. Today, we have some choices. You know, I love Easter Sunday. I love the excitement and the music, and I love hearing Christ is risen. Sometimes Easter is one of those days that there's so much going on. You know, after here, will you have to go to an Easter egg hunt or maybe make dinner or maybe travel far. And then for so many of us, our Easter holidays have been cut short because of snow. And so therefore, everything is getting compressed into this one day. And how quickly will we forget the message of Christ is risen? Today we can leave this place and we can leave it and be totally unchanged. Our lives can remain exactly the same. We can remain afraid. We can remain hopeless. And we can choose to do nothing. Or we can do exactly what the women must have eventually done. You see, because eventually they must have shared the message with someone, because otherwise we wouldn't have been sitting here. So eventually they got over their fear and shared the message. They had faith. And that's called Easter faith. Even when the story looks finished, it's not. Because what happens in life does fill us often with amazement. and does often fill us with terror. But Jesus continues to live. Jesus continues to live with us and among us and works in our lives. So Mark's story opens it up to you continuing the story and sharing your message of hope, your message of death being eradicated by faith, and new life coming because you have believed. Christ is risen. Now what are you going to do about it?